I got the videos now. There we go. Hey, what's up? Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. All good. Hey, I was gonna text you this morning. Um, Obviously, I knew that. I know that quid's a dollar. I just thought it was a funny opportunity to make a joke. Um, I like hating on you call it England or Britain or the United Kingdom. That's what confuses me most, honestly. Like, which one is it? My computer's being kind of laggy right now. Give me a sec.
Yo,
Hey,
all right, couldn't get into Zoom. Finally got in.
I was trying to block you out. Uh, My computer's being all goofy.
Bunch of healthcare and energy stocks.
And movie stocks.
Yeah.
Dude, you guys all thought I was stupid for saying IMAX and AMC.
Yeah, AMC's pushing new highs this morning. They had some record-setting numbers this morning.
Did they?
Turning around, man.
Dude, yeah, they I mean there's some good movie numbers. I almost went to see the what you call it? The Homer whatever. The There we go. Post groundbreaking revenue. Dun, 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 dun. So yeah, look at that. That was the same headline that was last a week ago. So they had two. Yeah, they had. Oh yeah, that was the same headline because they had their highest revenue weekend last weekend. All right, guys, we got a few things to cover. If you're not here, you're late. And if you're late, Godspeed. Um, Not great. Not horrible either. Let's take a look through the market. Um, I'm just getting back. I mean, I was scanning stuff on my phone. I'm not as big of a fan as this HP as some other people are, but I'll keep it on my radar. All right. Dun. Alright. I'm just gonna kind of run through quick here and we can get chatting. I mean, usually I don't mind. I'm completely of the opposite mindset of people who say, "Oh, I see this setup posted on Twitter, so therefore it can't work." I think that's the stupidest thing in the world, but um, like that doesn't affect my eyes and what I want to take. So what, you're just not going to take the setup because a few people posted about it on Twitter? Okay. Um, I don't know. Crowd. This Blaze is good. Oof, man. First run through, not as excited as I wanted to be. Okay, so what's going on, dudes, lady dudes? Um, Broncos. Oh,
Yeah.
wait. I messed that one up. Let's start over. Um, hey, real talk though, on some of these like semiconductor stocks, obviously not great. It's a 2% gap down. We had Iran headlines over the weekend or on Sunday night ahead of futures open that were, generally pretty positive. And we've seen the market react strongly before. This chart's, fairly troublesome still. But this is a much better open than than it was looking like overnight. It's about 700 level, six call it 696 to 703-ish, give or take, whatever that zone. It's probably gonna be a little bit troublesome. So the more, you know, dancing we can do around this range is ideal. A gap up would have been, I think, a little bit more challenging today. So I want to kind of show this example here where we kind of gapped up into the declining 20, gapped up into the declining 20. SPY is gapping up 0.5%. That's actually a pretty decent 3-day push here. But primarily the cues to see this kind of do something like this over a period of time underneath the 20 May. I mean, that can last anywhere from, you know, 3 days to, 10 days realistically. Um, that would be positive, as long as we're kind of holding this bear gap low from Thursday, is, essentially what, I want to see. And even, dipping down into this and getting supported right there would be awesome. Like that would bring some real fear. That'd bring some fear and some fighting back and forth. Could you imagine? Even like if we, push through 700 and come back down into the low 680s or something. Um, People would be short, bearish, ready to jump off of
For
their
sure.
couches. And so, anyways, I think that'd be my optimal scenario, to be quite honest. Because then you're getting kind of the, third-ish leg of, brief 2-day, 3-day bounces, to get people like, yeah, look at you just short the pops. And then you kind of get a true little big pop. So I'm keeping that in the back pocket. For one scenario. Yeah, the Dow Jones up about 1.3%. The Dow kind of reminds me of this move on SPY. Where was it? This like 3-day burst right here, like October, end of October. Um, yeah, I could see something like that kind of playing out where you get very, very brief, consolidation, and then you kind of just like, whoa, 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 wait. Gap up and away. And so, I can see something like that happening here on the Dow. We'll see. It's never really entered much of a corrective period. Same thing with SPY, quite honestly. Had this choppy range. And then a pretty significant bull gap on Thursday. It's above all moving averages. 20 May is starting to curl up. So we do have some positive signs on the S&P. We've got a bear gap here that's getting, potentially getting filled here in pre-market that we last rejected from back here at the end of July, 722. Um, so, anyways, there's a little bit of a mixed bag, which kind of leads me to that optimal scenario of that mixed bag. and I'd like some a little bit of fear mixed in to really shine up some opportunities. And then on top of that, you pull up a couple of these charts like this, you know, if we get another, little support hold on something like Intel even here, I'd probably be willing to trade this against this bull gap around 85. Like let's say we, gap down tomorrow, or we kind of chop around, put in a lower wick hammer candle, in this zone. That'd be, pre-wedge poppy type stuff that I might be willing to take like right there. We'll see. I'd have to kind of see what the rest of the market's doing. So that's why I kind of listed some of these in Sunday scans first because, although the charts are, not near term attractive, I mean, it's just the reality that so go the semis, right? So like you got to do some analysis on them and pay attention to them if you're going to be watching the market. Um, you got the IGV remounting the 200-day this morning. Microsoft had its first 2 days above the 200-day for the entirety of 2026. It had this one day here above, that just kind of dangled, but this is the first time we've had two consecutive closes above the 200-day on Microsoft for the entire year, which is pretty cool. Amazon obviously had its big earnings gap up. We've got the cyber and, software type basket of relative strength names, D-Dog Crowd, PanW, Net, Snow, and you could probably keep, Twilio in there as a defending this bull gap here. Um, and then and then you've got some of these ERs and PRs, right? Blaze, which I still think is attractive. You'll get this weekly. I still think this is viable to have on your watch list and look for potentially, higher lows, some consolidation and tightness to get involved in. We've got a number of these like mid-tier, lower mid-cappy type software stocks reporting earnings this week. We're kind of through the big dogs, and now we're into some of the ones that have a higher propensity for surprises in either direction, which is exciting. Um, FIVN, is another one of those that still looks attractive. RNG had this really impressive earnings move, essentially a 50% move, over about 3 days, starting to build out. I really wanted a few more days here. I mean, there's a very attractive oops candle buy day on Friday. It's just the location of it was a little bit tricky. If you had like 3 or 4 more, days of consolidation, yeah, I'd be a lot more confident taking that, like that. We've taken a number of setups on looks like that, like on Fastly here, or after about, 4-ish days of consolidation. There's a lot more. Actually, it was a pretty ugly market back then too.
It
Um,
was, yeah.
yeah, and then the last really thing I want to mention is some of these healthcare names. I'm just gonna just bring them up. Lilly, NTRA, Oscar. I decided to throw on my list because they're good. They're good looks. Other than that, that's essentially my watch list. A variety of other things. I know people are watching this HPE. I sound like I have a strong opinion of it, and I'm not interested. That probably sounds a little bit bolder than what I actually feel about it. Because if this gets an inside day and then a gap down red to green, I'll buy it. $50 is the kind of level to pay attention to. Um, on this little base here. And then, of course, the last few I want to mention are Dell and AMD, right? These relative strength names. They're wide up here, especially AMD. Dell's a lot more natural and attractive here. I mean, just imagine that this closes exactly like this, and then the next day gets a hammer candle. I'd consider that a buy day tomorrow on this. And so, some of these are starting to give scenarios that I could see buy days starting to form eventually. Looking back, a couple of the regrets from last week and recently were not taking a few trades or stopping out of them. So I'm taking that as feedback versus like, oh, Patrick, you need to, better your execution. Well, no, I know why I did what I did on each of those, very deliberate. But it's cool to see the natural emotions, of a trader and natural thoughts take place. Like, oh damn, I wish I would have taken crowd at 188 to 190. Oh damn, I wish I would have held this SOXL and Koru for this bounce trade. Granted, it's coming back into this bull gap, so um yeah, just interesting. Oh, last one. I actually didn't include this in Sunday Scam for some fucking reason. Is this end tap? Because this is very interesting. Anon posted about this last night, giving some detail, about the more fundamental side of it. I'd love for this to kind of build out. It's kind of wedging up here, a little bit. I'd love a little bit of a higher low and build out. This is deserving of remaining on the list as well. And that's what I got for today. Brocco, over to you. Boom.
Well done. You got a lot more than me. I don't really have a plan really going into today. I'm kind of just, I want to see how the Qs trade, after pushing up into the 20 MA on Friday. Want to see how the semis act on this gap down. Um, Part of me really believes that, or I guess maybe is hoping that the better opportunities are going to show up middle to later part of the week after this recent bounce. We got SanDisk earnings, SpaceX earnings would be interesting with the lockup stuff expiring. That'll be fun to watch. So I'm probably going to be keeping an eye on that stuff. I really wish I still had a piece of a few things from Wednesday, and then I can maybe look to add if they like high or low here, but. Um, I don't really see anything like super in play today. Will be interesting if the market just starts grinding up from here. I mean, the Dow setting up for fresh highs. SPY looks like it could just kind of start if it holds up today, just like gapping and continuing to go. If tech can continue to hold and not really roll over. But yeah, no, I don't really have anything I'm watching for a trade today. I'm kind of building a list. I think of a few names I'd be interested in, middle to later part of the week if we got the market to kind of tighten up a little bit, at least tech and then, wedge pop or something. But yeah, I think that's it. Probably just gonna chill today. See how the market
You
trades.
you interested in buying a higher low look if we hold a bull gap on some things like that?
Yeah, dude, for sure.
Me too.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think like CBRS could be a sick trade if if that sets up something I'm really watching. This hourly is kind of building out an interesting look if this gets like a go signal.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that I mean, part of me wants to think that there's still more juice to the upside on the semis at some point in the near future. It's hard to feel like it now because like everything is working except that kind of group, and they still
Hmm.
continue to show like relative weakness. So I'm not going to fight that right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's where the volatility's been. That's where kind of the opportunity's been recently. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I want a little bit more information right now. I don't really have a
Me
lot of
too.
confidence in either direction at the moment. At least for, the tech stocks for the most part.
Me too. Me too. They're in the same basket to where like, okay, if this happens and this happens, I could see some excitement about it. Again, one of the still I don't know if you say challenging things, but perplexing things is looking at the S&P and then the Dow, even IWM to an extent. Like this is like a kicker candle on IWM.
Yeah, I mean, you could have the VIX breaking down below $15 here. I mean, today, tomorrow, I don't know. Which is kind of crazy. So yeah.
Is that telling the truth? I mean, does that mean like, damn, like let's be ready to, try to, buy some of the, strongest names or even try to play some of the semi bounces? Or does that mean, buyer beware? I don't fucking know, honestly.
I have no clue, dude.
I will say this week I'm probably leaning a little bit less toward the buyer beware um, than I was last week. Last week you probably couldn't convince me to besides that, bounce stuff, you couldn't convince me. I mean, like I said, I know why I didn't take crowd and even D-Dog. I kind of wish I did for all these. 'Cause that'd be cool to be sitting in that D-Dog. Almost had it right here on, not this past Friday, but the Friday before, 7/24, which is the day I bought it right there. Be kind of nice to be sitting in, you know, crowd D-Dog, and then because it'd be a little bit more willingness to, um, maybe take a stab or two at some of the other ones. Um, but yeah, anyways, what do you guys got? I know everyone's talking about, some bullshit ass stocks like Delta Airlines, so let's just forget about that and move on to some other ones. Um, no, I'm just kidding. Um, I always like to give people a hard time. What else? What are we missing? I mean, I feel like again, the kind of scanning and watch list part's pretty easy. Um, Tiger, I didn't mention. No, it's not my style. I always have trouble with these, left side gaps. People usually mention them one or two times, and then, I say I always have trouble with these left side gaps, and then, then the stock just never ends up doing anything. Um, Yeah, Bob, I had some more AI news with their open source model up decently. K-Web's actually been on like a 6-day run here. Yeah, CGNX is an interesting one. I agree. If something like this could tighten up here. You do have a bear gap up above hitting pre-market. It doesn't trade like super naturally, and hasn't before. So I'd really want to see this, ideally, tighten up and build. We did get some robotics news. This is more factory automation, I believe, or warehouse automation side of it, which again, that's some robotic stuff. We got a headline from the what is it, the FTC again this morning, talking about robots and that crap. AUR, I have no interest in. Yeah, okay, that doesn't look horrible. Doesn't look horrible, but. Yeah, if that's dominated my watch list, those are type of stocks that you go for after you already get, four of the best stocks in the market and be like, okay, cool, I got the four best stocks in the market. Let's have some fun. Let's get some portfolio boosters, type of trades, in reality. Yeah, I know, man. I know what you're saying. Hey, I always like that letting that natural analysis and idea generation guide because then I'm like, okay. I let that take the place. Okay, here's what I'm seeing. Here's the best, 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 and then like, damn, that's the best I got. you know. Okay, then kind of doing a full bigger picture review. Yeah, it's true. We have had a sen Pato, I was gonna bring that up at some
Yeah,
point.
since
This,
October, really.
yeah, we had 1 month of straight vertical. Oh God. And I know there's people out there trading who miss a good portion of this too. So that means you're really doing like nothing from
It was really
October.
like 35 days, really, the good part of the move.
Yeah. 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 I mean, within that though, that's at the index level, remember? Like within that there were, a variety of individual names that, trended, in through periods of this. So there were, I would say, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish periods of good individual stock action to where you can, get some account turnover or, whatever, get into a good leadership um build outs. You know what I mean? Throughout each of some of these periods. Like I said, like right here, SanDisk broke out, January went on a big run. So like, do you count that January to April then? Oh, nothing to do. The index is chopping around. Well, no, there were individual stocks that were kind of kicking ass at this time. So, and that's still one of my issues right now. I'd love for this to, wedge pop. I'd love for this to be a failed breakdown, kind of like we had back here and see that. Um, but there were setups fucking galore back at the end of March. There were stocks that were attractive. There were some really good bases. There were, themes that were
Big bases, like 6 to 8 months on like MRVL, Dell, stuff like that.
and then showing relative strength in that last, 3 to 4 weeks. like on top of those, like on top of that, with the base. So that's still a huge issue for me. Um, that I'm cognizant of. So, anyways, market opens in a minute and 30 seconds. Don't do anything stupid. Let's have some fun. If you're gonna do something stupid, let me know so I can join you and we can party together. First person to mention oil stocks has to I don't know. We'll figure out a punishment. Oh, another movie theme, by the way. Look at Lion. Lion. This is a nice little chart. Yeah, high or low at 14, I'll buy it. I'm just kidding though, by the way, guys. Half of my commentary about certain stocks like that is half of it's just joking and being facetious. I want the record to reflect. All right, ding, ding, ding. Yeah, Octa's deserved. Google over the 50-day. Yeah, the advanced decline positive 700. Yeah, the VIX up right now. Is that just a misprint? Eli Lilly remounting the 50-day back in range. Not bad. Core KORU just had like a 50 cent. Like, damn, SanDisk down 7%. Damn. Blaze is very nice, Nick. I'd love a higher low on this. I'd buy the shot of that. Damn. Mags broadly strong. Yeah, Mags up nearly 2% with the QQQ flat. SNDK just held this bull gap low 1124. That's tempting now. Same with Intel, just held that bull gap around 85 or 86, sorry. I can't do that. MU slightly under the bull gap.
And these mega
Man,
caps, Microsoft, Amazon.
how many spots are standing in the IROC? I can't wear. D-Dog, green to red. Possibly. SanDisk above the opening price. Nice hold of the bull gap right there.
Yeah, it's a little stronger than its peers off the lows.
MBIS didn't even touch the bull gap, so that's positive. BE didn't even touch either. Intel's right at this 86 spot. Bull gap. MBIS taking out the opening high. It's hard to look at this hourly and not see it like pre-wedge poppy type behavior. TQQQ, good curl. Q's good curl. SNDK, 60 bucks off the lows. BE above open, trying to reclaim 200. MBIS, red to green. SNDK up $100 off the low. SOXL above opening highs. Yeah, it's like versus it right away on a Monday, huh? Nice push on MBIS. SNDK, red to green. KORU's probably at a good spot, 1450. MU's still hanging down here. You got $10 of risk on this thing. I'm buying 5% on you here. I haven't bought it yet. Got 683.70. Or sorry, I can't talk. 784 flat, let's call it.
Dude, these mags. Damn. That is a move, dude. Wow.
Is it cranking?
Dude, it's cranking.
MBIS is probably the better one.
Hmm.
XBI at the 50 day. Curling back above VWAP. A little bit of volatility. It's like a $9 swing on this D-Dog, still an inside day. We're back and forth. Crowd still looks good. I like this D-Lo look, Fishman. Oracle, Microsoft. Damn, Microsoft 5%.
Yeah, dude.
Amazon,
These are some
go.
big moves.
What do you got there, Buckethead? Okay, okay. Still got the QQQ flat with all that.
Yeah, they'd be down a good bit if it weren't for these mags, I think.
Yeah. Price decline maintaining positive 700. I saw the view up on SNDK. MBIS new high day. You got a oops.
How about some of the CBRS?
Aye. Oh yeah. It would have been nice if we got like one extra day, like if it would have been tomorrow on all these, which is what I kind of wanted. Still might happen. BLZE still looks nice. We shall see. Webby went over some of these Livermore shake. I forget what they're called. Shakeout plus three or whatever they're called. Went over it on Google when you kind of undercut a base. What Jesse Livermore describes in his book, How to Trade in Stocks, um, or whatever it's called. It's basically the undercut and rally setup that he's defining. Um, Meta technically has the same thing right here. Basically through 552 would be the trigger. BLZ, yeah, they got earnings. Oh, today. Thanks, guys.
Damn, dude, Meta just filled that earnings gap. That's crazy. What a
Yeah.
move.
Google felt like look at Google since their earnings.
Yeah.
It's a big move. That's a 20% move post earnings.
Yeah, Mags looks ready to go.
Nice, Corn. Hey, I remember when you were entering that.
I do too, yeah.
Good job, dude. What's Lily doing? Lily green to red. J&J. So some of the defensives. Healthcare with energy doing. Red. Yeah, man, have a good call. No. AMD, Dell, not really getting much love. Yeah, I didn't like that. I I didn't like his description of that pata at all. 100%. To me, I was like, man, that's where I disagree with a lot of the rule-based people because like, do you really have to wait for it to get that 10%? Like, what the fuck's the difference? Why can't you just see it happening? I mean, first off, I'm Mike Webster studied the market probably more than anybody else.
Literally.
So, but I like to let my initial kind of thought, play out. Yeah, for real, sick move on that, man. A noob set to
Yeah,
20
you don't know
minute.
who it's gonna be, but someone in this Discord catches a China move each year. The best one usually. Manrav, whoever.
Nice work. Um, did you buy that on Thursday, Fishman? I'm guessing you bought the strong close Thursday, it looks like. Trump urges Chevron to cut oil prices. So he's still not really getting much bid here. It's the compute names that are doing better. MBIS, Cypher even, BE a little bit as well. You see the VIX green with the S&P up almost 1%?
Yeah.
The fuck's up with that? Snow, very good. Yeah, Puma. It does. Nice, that sounds good job. There's a climb pots of 850. MBIS still making new highs. Pretty impressive, man. What's crypto doing? Mm. Q's get a nice pop side A. MBIS has a chance to super oops remounting the 20 May here. BE red to green.
Dude, meta. Holy shit.
I know.
What? Dude, that's insane.
Oh damn, core weave. Yeah, super oops is a bullish engulfing, essentially. Yeah, these compute stocks. Cypher, MBIS, CoreWeave. I've only got two of them. Yeah, maybe I might have actually three actually. I'll look later.
Damn, this action really does kind of remind me of like April 7th earlier this year, like April 6th, April 7th. Just like really tight cues action, like between the 9 and 20 with like very little like volatility. You know what I mean? A wider range back then and the dips were getting bought and stuff, but I like how the cues are kind of just holding nice and tight today inside.
And a lot of the individual names look like April 2nd.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, like they kind of like the look you're looking at on like MU and SNDK, but they're a little further down, a little bit.
Yeah, they're
Some
they're
of
a
them.
little further down. MBIS looks exactly like the Qs
But
did on
yeah,
April 2nd.
then yeah, 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 yeah.
I'd argue that MBIS looks better than the Qs looked right here.
I just like I mean I don't know, the cues are just trading nice and tight intraday right now, really smooth. It's
Yep.
good. I remember noticing that character change on those couple days there in April.
Yeah, I mean it just kept like walking up like bull gap area to risk off of higher low area to risk off of higher low remounting the 20 MA area to risk off of follow through day area to risk off of subsequent follow through day area to risk off of.
Yeah. MU near highs.
Like I had to take something I had to take some action into these bull gaps. Intel I still think is viable with 85.62 as a stop in the bull gap. I mean, let's be honest. SOXL, TQQQ are the best. MBIS is probably leading. Of course, Manrav's got MBIL from fucking Friday. Probably added this morning. You got a bullish engulfing essentially on MBIS.
SNDK highs, red to green.
I'm starting to get the cues start to launch a little bit. Nice action on CBRS, Brocco. What's a 50% trace of yesterday's candle?
I don't know. Let me see.
205. Yeah, a little bit less. Call it 204.60. Call it 205. It's a $30 move off of lows on MBIS.
Not bad. Decent action so far this morning.
Yeah,
Decent
205 spot
action.
on CBRS is big. Dumbledore, no thoughts yet on Oyster. So just kind of comparing like this look to like MBIS recent like because they're I mean they're all kind of trading in tandem. This is a lot easier to be excited about MBIS than it is uh Oust in my opinion. But who knows? What's AMD and Dell doing? It's HPE. One more day would be okay on it, but I can see willingness to try it against 46.30. You got a $1.15 stop here. One more day would be nice, but I can see an attempt on it. Yeah, 205 spot on CBRS is big. That is true, D-Marbs. XBI, you got a little hammer at the 50-day. Wonder if is there anchored view up spots from Thursday. We probably did below all of them. SMH is still notably weak compared to everything else. QQQ technically isn't leading. And then Dow Jones leading actually. Oh wait, Dow Jones has Amazon and these in them now, don't they? Yeah,
Microsoft, yeah.
yeah. And Google. Damn, Dow Jones kind of nice.
Yeah, dude. It's a nice port.
Get rid of Procter and Gamble out of there. Get rid of Travelers. Hey, you can keep Travelers, and then get rid of Johnson and Johnson. Replace that with I don't know, NBIS and Bloom Energy. Just kidding. This butterfly is a wild stock, man. Still looks hot. XBI reclaiming previous day low. Mm. Do you get some 200 calls with that too, Bronco?
No.
You dark.
Nah. Just trying to make a few bucks, man.
I know, no shit. Mm. Here, Man, Nvidia. Nvidia's trading like a DMARC, man. You're spot on. Nvidia's trading like a mega cap. This XBI is a sick candle, man. BE got a nice oops. Snowflake up 6%. MBIS new high day. DOCN, you got an oops too. Tomorrow. Yeah, I was about to say last not found. Is it getting pumped on the internet? Dude, D-Marbs, that's a conversation Bronco and I have had many times.
Oh boy, what is it? Oh yeah.
What do you got there, Buckethead? I actually like that the put premium's above zero. Because um I think the overeager overeager shorts after a big surprise gap up and move like that, overeager shorts is the worst thing you can do. There's two short spots on the cues, in my opinion, that were the only worthy spots right here so far. Very well might,
That little
get up.
inside day, like right below the 20 May, that was the cleanest, I think, for sure. That was
Yeah,
when
this
I
one.
messaged you about the spy puts, I think. Was that that day?
Yes. Let me take a look on Spy. Yeah,
Yeah, just with how like both indexes looked like
might have
spy
been
just
on
wedging up.
716, honestly.
No, it was the little wedge up into the gap.
Was it? Okay.
Dude, that bar from last week still doesn't look real. The Fed bar. It's just so
I know.
crazy. Dude, spy's strong, dude. This thing's trading like it's gonna just grind, 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 grind.
Could we have a breath thrust today? It's probably going to be unreliable seeing as it's held up so well. It's kind of feeling breath thrusty. I mean, this was one of the first days too that I suppose back here on the 24th it did that. But if you look, all these days, I mean, who knows if this is real, but um all these days where the advanced decline was up at highs, Brocco, you seen this?
What about it?
Look how it opened high and then like closed low.
Yeah, like every time I got into that zone, it faded.
And today, not. Yeah, Kim, it feels like kind of breath thrusty. What's a mute one? There we go, Micron.
There you go, MU at highs.
Well, who knows if this trades work? I'm still expecting to get stopped out. But seeing the kind of opening drive in MBIS lower, like that's what trades look like. That's what I mean. There's like an intraday chart, but just like seeing this depiction right here is what a presence of buyers and area to risk off of, often looks like. And then, we talked about these bull gap spots on SMH, right? Talked about this bull gap, and I'm like, man, am I that set on Tuesday or Wednesday to where, I'm just gonna do nothing into this bull gap here on SMH? And I'm seeing MBIS go red to green. I'm seeing BE go red to green. I'm seeing SNDK bounce and take out open, right? I mean, right here on SNDK, that's a presence of buyers and area to risk off of. And the one of the biggest things in my trading, aside from, pattern or whatever and cycle of price action, a huge driver is what's my stop? Like, really. Um, combine that with, a spot. I mean, this is essentially the ideal path, near term. And then, then it likely comes up to the 50 SMA in this bear gap and fails, right? That's very, very possible. But you're looking at, I was measuring to the 20 MA at 900, and I'm like, damn, I can get $10 of risk. It was 880 when I kind of first called that out, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, Patrick, you just said $10 of risk on this. You're measuring up to 900. That's $120 of reward. How do I pass on a 12 to 1 opportunity to where it's just hitting a declining 20 MA? I don't know. Is it relative strength? No, obviously not. I'm not an idiot. But show me a measured out 12 to 1 trade, and I'll take that. I was honestly going to take Intel. And again, if you see that, a little bit, maybe a little bit confused as to, what the strategy is, I'm just going to refer you very, very simply to this. And who the hell knows if this plays out, right? Who the hell knows? But also, it's 5% with the 2% I'm risking like 10 basis points. The fact that I said basis points. Yeah, there are a few subtleties at the S that you notice on BE and MBIS this morning, to where SMH, MUS, and DK, Intel were coming into these Thursday gap lows. NBIS, again, these are all lumped in the same trade, right? AI trade, all that stuff. BE, MBIS were some of the first two to go red to green, and these weren't able to come into those lows right there, which I thought was rather notable. Um, Not able to come in those lows. And then you've got um, and then a few other things too. Eli Lilly, some of the defensive names kind of fading off a little bit. Like, I like to see that. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, just kind of combining a few things to again, Dark talking about some of the 30 weeks on NBIS and BE. Buckethead posting the tide. Um, yeah. Dude, Jim, Brocco, do you see Jim's message in the questions spot?
Um, no.
Yeah, I'm gonna tag you quick.
Really liking recorded Zoom sessions posted to YouTube. What summary? I already have that. Another idea is to somehow consolidate the best lesson sections. Yeah, dude, totally doable. Man, this is gonna be so cool. I can't wait.
Oh, yes, I should have taken SNDK instead of MU. I should have. SNDK was slightly stronger.
I feel like MU is more that like institutionally supported name though. Like if the group goes up, that name probably should give you less volatility, a little bit easier of a ride, you know? And
Yeah, MU
SNDK
just
has
felt.
earnings too, so I don't know.
Oh, good point. Shit, I forgot about that.
Which I think is Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken.
Dude, EIC, I have no idea. I'm just trying to not lose money.
That's funny.
What time was that at? That was about 15 minutes ago only. Price actually guided earlier this time, it looks like. Interesting. TWST, let me take a look. Oh, damn.
Yeah.
If I would have seen that, I probably would end up pulling the trigger on XBI 150 calls or Labby shares. If I seen that, I'm just always I never know what the fuck I'm doing on yeah, Labby 223. Hey, nice entry. Yeah, Intel's about to oops too. Forgot about A Lab. Look at that butterfly. Mm. Damn twist. That EHR's got a big oops too. Hot too. The AMD got a little Sarah Dell. Oops. I actually typed in Dell. I got Jerry's famous deli. How could I how could you forget?
Jerry's famous deli.
Hmm. Doesn't even trade. 730 position. Let me take a look. Oh, that big lower wick. Oh, right here. What do you got? 396? 394.50. Nice. 390.58 now. Beautiful.
Man, this intraday action feels so clean.
It
Just
does.
every dip getting bought, the cues just tick, 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 just slowly. Like it's like just, I mean, it's amazing action intraday. Very little volatility, just like each dip gets bought, grinding, surfing the MAs. SOXL just grinding up since the lows.
Yeah, SMH just went green. It's good. We're getting more and more to kind of join versus more and more to fade, which we've seen over the past probably 2, 3 weeks. It's nice, up $37 on MU, and it's still, I mean, it hasn't quite gone green yet. I don't like that it's still red. SNDK is up 4%. Um, we got one of the most kick-ass super hoops on MBIS I've seen in a while. CBRS about to do the same.
Yeah, this is decent action today. First day I've actually kind of been impressed in a bit. I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel like because I feel like the big crazy like couple day rallies we saw on like MBIS on the last bounce previously,
Mhm.
to me that was like an obvious like not an obvious short, but like a super obvious like crazy counter trend rally, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas like after we've gotten the mean reversion and some capitulation last week and whatever, like even this rebound today in some stocks feels much more orderly. You
Yep.
know, where like previously it felt kind of like just wild and out of control, you know?
Yep.
I don't know if that makes sense.
100% makes sense. Um, I still personally would like to see a little bit more chop and wiggle around here.
Hmm.
Um, but we'll see.
It's so weird. Like just looking at like intraday charts today, like this feels like bull market action, like just the way the tape is moving. It's I mean you do have, you know, VIX at 1570, so that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, so far instead of again near term, because basically right now you could still only have probably a 2 to 3 day outlook. Um, but basically instead of the individual names leading I mean, like leading some things, you've got the some of the individual names starting to join up with the rest of stuff. Who knows? We'll see.
Hmm. Oh, it feels like we have like an intermediate or like tradable low, I guess,
Yeah,
for now. I mean, then again, you know, when you're below the 50 on the Qs, anything goes, man. We could be
fucking
down 2% tomorrow and we all look like idiots, you know? It's just the way it
and it's just
goes.
like
You just gotta kind of always keep that in mind, yeah.
100%. Yeah.
I'm gonna get some water. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, exactly. Oh. Oh. Mm. Mike Webster was also making the argument in his weekend video, um, that you might not need I don't need a follow through day. I personally am under the impression that you can look for one. Um, but that's what always makes it interesting with divergences between the indexes that we've seen and whatnot, and variety of the stocks. Yeah, because you don't need a fall today if S&P dropped 4.8%. QQQ dropped 11.5%. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll look at that for one. Um, Popping in, declining 20 man, bear gap above. Like there's still things to be obviously very, very aware of. This is why those gap up against intermediate trends can be such good spots. And this is why on the Webby trend change checklist that I'm completely comfortable putting in a preface before number one of um upside reversal or significant gap off lows um on that Webby trend change checklist, which I think is reasonable. And I think he'd agree with me too. Nice, Jan. Here's as to what ends up happening mid morning and into the end of the day. Anything outside of my watch was moving. It's a bullish engulfing level on CBRS 210. 210. Rob could have and should have bought Dell on the reclaim of previous day low and 50 SMA reclaim and 400 level. I should be in that too right now. Where'd you get it at, Yeti? Yeah, super understandable. Yeah. I also like posing interesting questions. Again, I don't exactly believe what I'm about to say, but again, it's an interesting question. Just like that Chris Camille talk yesterday in the chat is I don't exactly believe it, but I think it was a conversation worth having. Um, and it's always intrigued me because I mean, I'm not a skeptic or contrarian in many ways at all, but I like to get at the root of why things are the way that they are. Okay, why do so many people believe these things to be true? Is it that they've just gone through the experience that has led everyone to this, or is it, or is it a little bit of herd mentality? Okay. So what I'm about to say kind of speaks to that as well. Um, which is based on Yeti's statement just now. Um, didn't want too many names. 398 ninth century. Didn't want too many names. And trying to think of how to present this in a reasonable way because the wrong person hearing this could turn somewhat reckless. But is it riskier to buy, let's say SNDK here, or is it riskier to buy SNDK here, or even here? Is it riskier to buy BE here, or is it riskier to buy, or sorry, MBIS here, or is it riskier to buy it here? Is it riskier to buy stocks here, or is it riskier to buy stocks here?
Bro, Qs are actually ripping.
Uh,
The SOXL daily, like you could not, um, like this is just textbook pre wedge pop kind of action
hmm.
where you just like mean reversion, sold on like the second, third day bounce, and gap down gets bought. Oops.
I had a really good spot too. Real, I should have taken SOXL too. Right here on this VWAP, probably. Could have got in 106, 107, essentially 102 stop. That's fine. I want to see this MU honestly get up to about 860 like today. Doesn't have to. Should have got this Dell 400.
Our little UCT write up this morning had Dell as a top watch today, I think on like a red to green buy
Really?
as a top setup for the day. Yeah.
Give me an inside day on Dell tomorrow. And Bear Gap, RK. Intel 91. I don't think so. I don't think there's an IGV one either. Is there? Do you know what I want to study, Rocco? Is that DeMark stuff that JT talks about?
Let me know what you find.
It's extremely fascinating. Is there anyone here that uses it? I doubt it. I don't think I've ever heard it really mentioned.
Ah, man, this Q's weekly chart, man. This is the big failed breakdown, breaking over last week's high now. Dude, hmm. Like this looks like really nice. You're lacking the leadership. The one thing we have to be mindful of too is I know the leadership isn't like that great right
Hmm.
now. But like I feel like there's a lot of recency bias there because you have to argue that March and April were some of the best examples of relative strength in a correction, like pretty much I've ever seen in my life, like that I've ever studied. Like some of those bases were just like, I mean, you better than model book. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like comparing it to that is tough. I mean, there are some, like I remember, maybe this isn't a good comparison though. it could take time though,
Hmm.
like for example, like I'm trying to think, like PLTR or APP after the August
Yeah.
after the August correction, right? So these showed clear relative strength in a little bit of time after the lows, whatever, because the earnings and stuff. But they really didn't like they to me they weren't like super actionable until the market had already staged a rally and then 4 weeks later put in a higher low. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that could be like where we're at now, I
Hmm.
mean, just, being optimistic, the market could rally right now and there's some things that maybe are standing out but aren't super attractive. But then if we, get like a couple weeks of consolidation and then the market gives us a major go signal, like that's where they will really stand out.
Hmm.
Even after the little April correction in 24, after that first run, like I remember I was looking at there weren't like that many like I feel like there weren't a ton of super obvious leaders. It was weird. All the stocks that kind of came off the highs like just led again. Like I remember I thought Nvidia was done and then it just like ripped. Um
I don't even remember what I was trading back then.
Dude, it was just semis, man, for the most part. Like the first half of 24 at least
Hmm.
was straight semis. And then after the second half of 24 is where a lot of growth stocks came in after the
Yeah.
August low, like PLTR hood.
I suck at those. Something like Google would be probably be a little bit easier. You should watch Nick, I don't know if you did, but you should watch the IBD video from this weekend. It's a good interesting one. But no, I don't really have much luck. There's a few examples of this. I'm thinking of Palantir back here. I consider this a little bit different though. Where is it? Hold on, I'll find it here in a second. Like right here, I consider that different. I think crowd was the same. Um, where was crowd? Crowd did something similar right here, where you get that kind of gap off the highs and then kind of build a little bit of a range. Kind of the same thing. Crowd was um where? Like right here. I mean, I wouldn't give it 20% EIC. I would just say, okay, boom, here's my thing. I'll have a so be don't take this the wrong way, but I would have a somewhat liquid stop, like okay, max 5%, max 6%, right? And then as the stock kind of trades, you define it. So, for example, one recent trade that depicts that a little bit is COHR trade back here in February. Okay. And that trade I bought right here on February 17th on, inside day kind of undercut right there. So I didn't buy it until I think 217 that day, maybe 218. And the low of day was 204. So, you're looking at a a 6 to 7% stop on this to low a day. And I kind of was keeping it a liquid stop, if you will. By that I mean I'm okay, I'm not gonna let this go more than, 5 to 6% against me. Again, pending a gap down, but no matter what the fuck your stop is, you get a gap down against your stop. That's just what it is. Um, so as the kind of the as it traded over the next couple days, I kind of let the stock define my stop, which I got a clear definitive stop 2 days later at about 218. Or sorry, 217. And then it went on to, go on a nice big run, tap 300, sold some at 300. I think I sold some into these highs at about 240 or whatever. And then held. I don't even know where I got stopped out. The ref's right here, probably. I can't remember. Um, so to compare that to, this trade here that you're kind of considering, or you asked if I was considering, well, maybe I am. I'd be okay with that. I did get MBIS with ManRev too, so you see that. Um, which I had this Dell, that'd be very comfortable. Um, so with this, you could kind of wait for, maybe at least a little bit of something here, just to look at a little bit of intraday tightness to where you find out in 30 minutes to an hour if you're even dabbling in something that is worthwhile, right? So that you kind of need a little bit, and then kind of work your way up the time frames. Like, okay, worst case scenario, I stop out, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7%, whatever. So 10% position, 5% position, you're looking at 0.5% risk. Um, and then as the stock kind of works or doesn't work, it gives you a truly solid stop. That's usually how I do it on ones that I feel like I'm late to. Um, or ones that are slightly farther away from my stop, which you don't have to. Um, right? You can just completely pass on those. For example, Dell against 400, I start to map out kind of the scenarios that I want to see going forward that I would enter on. So for Dell right here, scenario number one would be immediate continuation via gap up or red to green day two action. Okay. That's one scenario. Scenario number two would be, a rejection and failure, making this 430 level kind of a big spot. So like a red candle that looks like that. Scenario number three would be, a nice tight inside day, kind of above the 9 and 20 right there. Scenario number four would be a bearish kicker. Okay. Bearish kicker would be the most painful if I decide to enter up here. Bearish kicker would be painful if I bought down here, but slightly less painful. Okay. Inside day would be perfect. Day two, red to green would encourage me to, that would mean like, okay, well then if that's the scenario that I think is most likely, well then I'd want to buy it kind of today if I can find a little bit of intraday spot, 410 give or take to risk off of. Scenario three, gap up and green to red, then then you have a chance to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to take a 2% stop on this. Because then you're up at, 430 and it's coming back down, 418, 415, and then it's just a, 1.5% stop. So who knows? By the way, this is only an hour and a half of market action. Um, Again, so far I like the higher lows. Curious to see what happens. Yeah, HPE, that ended up being a good spot. Did anybody buy this morning? We were talking about it, I think 47.30, 47.40. At about a dollar 15 stop, you'd be up about 2 to 1 already. Reasonable spot. Super reasonable. Nice. Yeti. Yep. Or yeah, good. 47.7, you're up 1.4 with 1.4 of risk. Nice, Steven. Oh, Steven's the man. I know, D-Marbs, I know. It's another one of those same feelings that has occurred over the past, 3 to 4 years, which is um so many times I've gone from suddenly being patient and selective, right, and protecting money, to suddenly being like seeing, we're at all-time highs, you must be, fully margined into stocks. And I was like, well, fuck, man, where'd that happen? I mean, not all the time, obviously, didn't. doing really well, but there's times where it says the market down all the time. Really, the main spot was this period. I can't remember where it was. In November.
It was when the mega caps were ripped. The last couple of days of that rally.
Is that at the end of October?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, damn, I got like nothing. It sucks. But you actually talked about that scenario this morning where Dow kind of looks like it could be at that spot. Dow's at all-time highs, I think. 532. Oh no, a buck short. Mm. All right, I'll call you after Zoom. Dude, for real. I'm still convinced Man Rat's a time traveler who just kind of somewhat forgot the things that happened in the future, but has like a pretty decent recollection of it.
Wow, new high day on mags.
Man Rat, do you have a mustache? I can't remember. Hmm. I'm gonna keep an eye on Dell until the end of the day. Don't want MU to go fail red to green and come back nasty. It's very possible. So yeah, dude. Yeah, headline from Trumpster. Trump is talking right now. Ah, that's a big one. Iranian leadership is unbelievably duplicitous. All right, Trump, making me whip out all Merriam-Webster on this one. Is it duplicitous? Gotcha. See, I don't know how to read. I tried warning you guys. If it were 1/100th of the cost, yes. Duplicitous. Sorry, Cohen. Now I know. Two-faced. Yeah, it sounds like the a negative connotation towards like two-sided. Remember us talking about Tyson chicken last week? That's not a real one, is it? Is that real? I honestly don't fucking know. Nah, it's not real. And by the way, I know he's the president and all that, but every social media company or news organization sells API access at a very expensive rate. Like X API um is oh, Kibby, I don't remember what was I saying about Dell. I'm just gonna watch that. 400 would have been a good buy. Uh, Into the end of the day, if I can get a reasonable risk spot intraday, I might try that. I'm not really trying to go balls to the walls. We'll see. Duplicitous. Yeah, that's my hope, Kibby. I'll try that if we get that. I'll probably want to see what the rest of the market's doing. And then if we get a strong close, I'd want it to kind of rally, close it high too. Yep. Here's it probably would have been easier too, like mentally in terms of approach to get Dell earlier this morning. And then instead of looking at MU or SNDK to if you want a second one to try a SOXL, probably would be easier. Because instead, now I got MU SND or MU which is, arguably, a little bit sketchier. And hoping the good one lets me in. Yeah, that was a good spot there. I don't mind it right here either, actually. Be nice if it was closer to 110. I suppose it just gave 110. Hmm. NVEC? I don't even know what that is. Okay, so you got an earnings gapper. This is super thin. $500 million market cap. I mean, the earnings gapper is nice, but this is a thin little guy. I don't really have any thoughts on it. It does, Kibby. I agree. 100%. Damn twist. The foot. Dude, some of these compute stocks or whatever the neocons are pretty impressive today. Cypher, MBIS, I mean all of them. Definitely standing out. Might be a spot to try Dell. Neocod ETF. Nice. That looks sick. Yeah, pretty much. And memory is probably weakest. Do you have the memory ETF screenshot? I gotta go through and actually fix the memory one. I think it's a little bit fucky.
It is. It has STX, WDC, MU, SNDK, AVGO, CMO.
Yeah. Is that it? That's it. I mean, that's not bad.
It is leading down in the themes today.
Yeah, I figured. Can't believe, man, I've nailed that MBIS. Man, fuck that guy.
Seriously.
I know, dude. I know. The twist candle, crazy. I don't really think much. Yeah, the exact scenario that played out today. Yep. Nah, not really, man. No, enough to where I'm happy. Blake, um I always map out kind of a wide variety of scenarios, and then it's like, what's the most actionable? Because me and you, we've had a number of conversations to where we can be kind of similar, like naturally very good risk protectors, right? And oftentimes we'll need that extra little nudge, maybe, to take some extra risk, you know? Um, so one kind of final assessment or final question that I like to ask is what's the most actionable scenario? Like what scenario would, not force me, but compel me to take the most action, right? Kind of thing almost. And that scenario of the, holding the gap support, gap down red to green, like high or low leading into, fall through day or wedge pop or whatever. Um, is the most, I guess, actionable scenario. Right. And then also thinking of the other side too, somewhat is, let's say you look at the the cues, what would be the most actionable for, short side traders. And this is why, I like, taking um, account of people who I know do the work and just really look forward to their analysis, like dark oblivion, right? They talked about covering up some shorts, sent subtle messages like, oh, look at BE 30 week, look at MBIS 30 week, probably due for, a reasonable bounce spot. I'm actually interested in some things, blah blah, right? Like, keeping some of those things in the back of my head, not saying that guides me at all, but it's like, okay, I respect their opinions, and if I can use that, somewhat to an advantage at certain times in certain spots, then that's a good benefit. Hey, dude, I know. I mean, there's been hundreds of times too where like Kanal would be talking about something that that he wants to see or what he expects, and I'm just like, well, what the fuck, man? I was looking at longing all of these names, and you just listed this as, short, short, short. Or I was looking at doing nothing and saw nothing, and you've got like 14 setups that you think are interested this morning. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll watch and see what happens. And then, over years kind of seeing that happen. And or other times too where, is he would, be um not interested in some things, or looking to long some things, and I'm like, man, I see like four shorts that I want to hit, and then so, those end up playing out. I'm like, nice, okay, you can trust yourself, you know. But then you go through, I mean, then you go through dozens and dozens of cycle, hundreds and hundreds of days of those scenarios. Yeah, yeah, 2 3 per day, and then it's like, It's like taking shots, right? It's like Steph Curry, not Steph Curry. It's like, it's taking 3-point shots or free throws. You know what I mean? Reps. Like I haven't shot a basketball in probably, I don't know, a fucking very long time. And like my first like 50 shots would probably be um a little goofy, a little uncomfortable. I'd probably miss form. And after 50 shots, well, my arms and shoulders would probably be super tired. But after 50 shots, I'd start to get the kind of feel of it. Fuck yeah, Brocco. 15 cents away from the engulfing. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I think I'm gonna hop off and work on the UCT intelligence for a
All right,
bit.
man.
I got a couple ideas today I want to run with.
I sit on CBRS.
Yeah, we'll see how it turns out.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna stay on for a little bit.
Okay,
All right.
cool.
I actually like CLF. No. No, that's the worst news I've ever seen. I got another dentist appointment today. Should have made it for 2:30, right? Yeah, another one. I mean, might be too much information. I don't really care. Um, when I had my cleaning, they only would do half my mouth, and then they're doing the other half today. I didn't go to the dentist for 12 years. So, what the fuck do you expect? Wow, is that intraday spot on Dell there? That's the first day, I think, in what, a week? Like 6 or 7 sessions, isn't it, Beeb? Yeah. Did they do the same thing where they'd only clean half your mouth? Yeah. All right. The hygienist is hot as hell. I think you still can closer to end of day, Blake. Y'all are wild. I remember that. So. What's MU doing? Not acting great. This hut though, this hut's a hottie too. MBIS, probably the best stock of the market today, right? Hut earnings tomorrow morning. Damn. Oh, we're done with that. It's or should I keep it going? I'll keep it going. You guys got anything on your mind? What do you got there, Buckethead? Nice. Fucking sick. SEDG. Let me take a look. Oh, oh yeah. I almost bought like literally the high a day here at like 58 on 715 as we were remounting. I almost did buy right there. I can't lie. I was like, ah, we kind of did, we got this spot here, remounting. I was like, nah, I want a higher low. This hasn't earned, um, this hasn't earned the right to fuck around. You know what I mean? Like MBIS, for example, you can fuck around with that. Yep. Dell, MBIS, CBRS, yep. Mm. And then hey, then Yeti add in probably crowd on Friday. And this is good though. I love doing the portfolio construction, right? This is actually a really nice setup. Came back in using this candle right here, 185 versus probably 188, give or take. And this is an hourly chart, so I'll flip to a 30-minute. You can essentially use the same thing, low a day, back through view app right there, 30-minute pivot, whatever the hell whatever you want to call it, right there. Seeing this hourly base right there. It's reasonable. We talked about it. Then MBIS, yep, Dell. And then I mean I throw SNDK, Intel, SOXL, one of those in there, honestly. Yeah, see that is a big thing too. Um, and this is why sometimes I consider, again, this is, might be fairly dangerous to say, but this is just something that I consider, personally too, is um doing less variables on um action and activity, but doing more variable on sizing because realistically I could probably keep like a similar willingness and level of activity and, just take things with like 1%, 2%, 5%, something like that. Um, and then doing less dialing down on like action. But right now I'm much more comfortable kind of dialing down on action and sizing a little bit. But then it's kind of harder to turn on the action and the sizing. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to do that acceleration um type thing because I still remember um I think it was September of 23. No, it was 21 maybe, where I had reached a big performance goal and I was like perfect, now I'm just going to kind of coast into the end of the year. I had reached a nice performance goal that I had set a while back and was really excited. Um and I remember saying that I'm gonna like I said, yeah, I'm gonna dial it back and slow down. And it took me um and then I fell into a rut for about 6 months to where my confidence was just like depleted. It was a very interesting situation. Um where like I wasn't losing a lot of money. I think I had like a 20% drawdown, maybe, yeah, give or take. Um and like the voices in my head were just very negative. Um just not like nonsense. Like you got yeah, yeah. And it was hard for me to turn it back on. Is I guess the gist of the statement. Yeah, yeah, that Dell intraday spot was pretty nice. Yeah. And well, another thing is um during that period too, EIC to get back on it was really the one good trade mentality, but like broadly applied throughout strategy in general. So what I mean by that is that I was like, okay, you've proven yourself that there's a variety of different strategies, you can implement and you can, see and recognize and, like do these things, whether it's, whatever, a variety of different strategies. And I was like, now the real test is narrowing, simplifying and kind of, specializing, if you will, or really focusing. Um, and that was one of the best things. I'm like, okay, what's causing me, all this mental angst and hesitation? I'm like, well, you're looking for, and this is, somewhat contrary to the scenarios thing, right? But you're looking for five different setups on five different scenarios on 20 different stocks. No shit, you're going to be backwards. So essentially what my, long-term solution kind of ended up being, like, okay, look for, one framework on multiple scenarios on a little bit fewer stocks, right? Focus on the thematic names, the either previous movers and leaders or the current relative strength leaders, right? Split it into those three baskets and focus on one setup and one variation of the setup. So, because then you get better and better and better at it because there's so many different variables in the market. There's so many different variables that you have to consider to where it's literally impossible. To where if you try to take on the task of considering all the market variables across all market stocks against across all time frames, you're bound to get overwhelmed. And that overwhelmed for certain people can turn into inaction and freezing and hesitation. And that overwhelm can turn into the need to take more action than is actually beneficial, right? Um, but both, despite different results and actions from that, both have the same solution, which is simplifying and kind of narrowing your specialty. Um, which again is why, you know, despite the personal preference towards like Chris Camillo going like fucking all in on weekly options ahead of earnings on Amazon, um, I can't hate on it because of I mean, it's the direct things that he talks about and has talked about for a decade publicly. Making high convicted, concentrated, short-term, highly levered bets. Like it's like his thing that he talks about and has talked about for a very, very long time. And when he does it, oh no, you're an idiot. You're just a gambling fool. Again, I feel it, but that's like the one thing that he talks about doing. So just because of the risk tolerance and the time frame and the um and the vehicle that you choose to depict that in, or how you come to that thesis, is that better than waiting for a follow through day, buying higher lows, looking at you know what I mean? Like there's so many different ways to do things that I can't say one is better than the other. Is one have a higher likelihood of ruin? Yeah. Do I have the stomach for that? Fuck no. Would I advocate that to basically anyone? No. But you've got people who have um quotes about Lance Brightstein saying, "Hey, in order to be a successful trader, you have to take concentrated bets." And then at the same time being like, "This guy who took a concentrated bet is a fucking fool." I'm like, wait a minute, you got people quoting Stanley Druckenmiller, put all your eggs in one basket and watch that basket carefully. And then saying the same thing. Again, do I advocate for highly levered weekly options ahead of earnings? Fuck no. It is insane. But there's a but. There is a but. And I feel like everyone was just stopping ahead of that but. And I think it's a reasonable conversation to have. Kwamagi did kind of the same thing at sometimes. He took highly levered, concentrated bets in some trades. Maybe it was spread out over the course of a few months during a trending bull market, but he took a highly levered bet on the trend continuing, a relative strength names, the setups following through. Warren Buffett was 90% fucking long Apple for a decade and a half. Yeah, but he's long shares. I know, and he held it for whatever 2 decades. Okay, so we're just arguing time frame then. You think he's the only person who's ever gotten margin called? Kwamagi's gotten margin called. Everybody's gotten margin called. No, I'm not trying to justify it. I'm trying to have a conversation that I feel like is not actually being had as much. Um, and I think people are immediately because my immediate reaction was, what a fucking psycho, right? That's my immediate reaction. And I'm wondering if that's fully justified. And then I'm like, but wait a minute. Christian Flanders was 200% long NVIDIA throughout all of 2024. Lance Brightstein was fully margined long Nikkei futures during the yen carry trade and a variety of other things. Pradeep was 300% long SMCI on the opening range break. What do you mean binary? 50-50? But you got Kwamagi with a 30% win rate. You've got some of the best traders in the market with a sub 50% win rate. So isn't binary then better than that? Because it's 50-50? Again, just having an interesting conversation. Okay, binary that meaning it's unpredictable market reaction. Okay. Or is it the speed of how fast the move is that it can move 10 to 15% in a matter of a minute or two versus a setup taking a day or 5 days to fail? Because when people say earnings are binary, but then also say I've got a 30% win rate and I'm profitable, makes it interesting perspective. 100% market can fuck up a good earnings. I agree. Despite the research, are there traders out there who are notorious and incredibly lucrative and successful who didn't at one point teeter on the edge of blow up or fame? Simon Russo in the Market Wizards chapter was borrowing money from his fucking parents and kept blowing it all shorting small cap stocks 50K, 50K, 50K at a time until he found a fucking stranger on the internet to loan him 50K because he kept blowing up shorting small cap stocks. Is that reckless? Is what Camille did more reckless? Is Pradeep being 300% long the SMCI opening range breakout more reckless? Is Lance being 200% long Nikki Futures on August 5th more reckless? Is I'm just trying to kind of show this pattern. Yeah, is short bear taking 15% account risk throughout 2020, shorting small cap stocks reckless? Is Roaring Kitty putting his net worth into GameStop leaps reckless? Is Michael Burry betting on the housing market reckless? In fact, find me a notorious trader who didn't bet big at one point and teeter on the edge of blow up or fame. Warren Buffett, the same thing. Is that all trading is? Is just training so you can potentially recognize the biggest bet of your life in the moment when it's present? Matt Sager, fuck no, dude. You need to figure out some risk management. Sorry. A huge role, Pizza Boy, survivor bias. Leopold's an idiot. Camille's a genius. Warren Buffett is perfect, 90% long Apple. Pradeep is perfect for buying 300% long SMCI on the opening range break. Well, Camille's one of the best performers in market, like literally in market history. EIC. He's got literally one of the best tracker records of like anyone. Oh, I'm super excited to listen to that, Stephen. Like I said, I thought the conversation was stopped short, and I saw an interesting opening for a or is he super reckless, Swan? Which one? Is David Tepper reckless and a psycho for being margined long China stocks before they made a 100% move? Let's go. Yes, Soros being 400 or 4x leverage short the pound. Is that reckless? So we're really just hating on the vehicle that he chose to express it. Only if you lose, that's a legitimate thing. Like people say that like out of the side of their mouth, like survivorship bias, it's only, crazy if you lose. But it's true. So I phrase the question again. How do you know it was a gamble through earnings? What if, Blake, he's studied and developed that level of conviction on 99 different earnings reports? He's had that same level of conviction. Okay, 99 different ones. And let's say 92. Yeah, that's true, EIC. The AWS channel checks, everything he said in his interviews turned out to be super accurate. That's why I want to have a conversation with Ariel about it. Um, because again, I agree with him. My initial response was, what a psycho. But I keep going through history of every trader that made a highly levered, concentrated bet. And it's all of them. Nope, I'd call him an idiot. Yeah, Elon, right? Yeah, that's another great example. Jeff Bezos talking about starting companies. Steve Jobs. And I just found it odd that everyone had a negative reaction to Chris Camille. It just seemed a little inconsistent because I think the sticker shock was earnings and weekly options. So all we're arguing at the base of it is risk tolerance and product vehicle and time frame, which, in my opinion, boils down to every single argument in trading in the markets. Every single disagreement in the market comes down to risk tolerance, product vehicle, and time frame. Every single argument. For example, someone long the housing market in 2006 and had a 20-year outlook to 2026. They're right. Someone short the housing market in 2006 with a 3-year outlook was right. Completely opposite directions. Risk tolerance, time frame, product vehicle. Anybody have any other thoughts? I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate, obviously. I hope you guys can tell. And I'm hyper aware that um and I want everyone to be hyper aware that 99.99% of people, one out of probably 100,000 tries to do the same tries to do the same thing, they'll go to zero. Well, I think it's an interesting conversation. Do you remember Starboy? Does anybody remember fucking that weirdo loser Starboy on Twitter? Some of you guys might be too early for that, but he was like a really weird COVID trader who got like 100,000 followers or something. Um, he used to do the same thing. He used to he got a bunch of like he got jerked off a bunch on the internet because he bought like meta puts ahead of earnings when it went like down like 25% and like Netflix or something like that, like those two. Um, and then he went broke and literally started like a GoFundMe and like got a job as like a busboy at a restaurant. But I'm just saying, we've sat here and had conversations. I did try to help him out. Um, you wouldn't listen. We've sat here and had conversations about variable position sizing, about grading setups, uh, and whatnot. I can't, in good faith, say someone who took variable position sizing, highly concentrated bets is a fool. In fact, I think I could reasonably win the argument that it is yeah, that it is more common than not for some of the most successful traders at one point or not after they've already developed a significant edge to at one point take a really big shot to where they're either forgotten as a villain or they're praised as a hero. And I don't like it that much because it goes against a lot of my beliefs. And I not like beliefs like, you know, oh, but my beliefs like what I believe to be true and effective in the market and what my goals are. Yeah, what my goals are, Nick. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, Tesla going big into that. Yep. I was long Tesla into the election. Is that binary? Is being long Tesla into the election binary? Is that a binary event? Okay, so there's a little bit of fundamental research that went into it. Is that different than saying that AWS channel checks and potential growth are beneficial? But that's reasonable, Stephen, right? That's reasonable. That's a reasonable fundamental thesis. But Camille's fundamental thesis isn't. Ah, yo, pizza boy. God damn, that's a fucking 15 out of 10 right there. We got a winner. Comment of the day. Ding 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 ding. God damn. What about glorifying the people who bought Rocket Lab and Palantir at 8, $9 and Rocket Lab at $4 or $5, or MBIS, right? With a significant portion of their account. Reckless. The most valid counter argument is, in my opinion, that there will be dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of thousands, of wannabe Chris Camillos now who will go and blow up. And that's going to happen, like regardless. There will be hundreds of Chris Camillos wannabes who see that and think that them reading a few tweets and Googling what does SPY do validate their research for an earnings YOLO long on weeklies. And it's too bad because that's guaranteed to happen. And it's a damn shame. Correct, Stephen. 100%. 100%. The masses do not have the ability to do that. 100%. And that is reckless. It's like Steph Curry changing basketball by taking the no-look three-point shots and by, taking a lot of reckless three-point shots and half-court shots and glorifying that angle of the game. Well, guess what? If you go to an AAU basketball game or a youth basketball game or a high school basketball game, it's a lot different than it was about 15 years ago. You know what I mean? And I hate that about, somewhat about, Steph Curry and basketball. There's a lot less triangle offense and a lot more chucking up threes. There's a lot more flopping and a little bit less hard defense. So that game has slightly changed based on the people influencing it. And that's a huge burden to carry. And it's important that people recognize that. Anyways, good talk. I think it's an interesting conversation. All right, see you guys.